Hi, I'm Dr. Annette Childs, and if you're watching this video, it means that you have clicked on a link because you want to know a little bit more about a story that I call the Stone Madonna. A story that transpired in my life, almost 25 years ago. It's hard to believe that much time has gone by. But it was a moment in my life that changed everything. And even though it happened 25 years ago, it really is the reason that I've put together the Mystics Bootcamp. In many ways, I was born with one foot in another world. From childhood onward, I had mystical experiences, I had visions, I had direct knowings, I had all kinds of things happen to me that I never really had a context to put within. And I lived most of my life up until the age of 30 knowing that there was something different going on in my world than what seemed to be going on in the worlds of other people. But I didn't really know what that was. And because of that, I kept my experiences pretty quiet. I had chosen a line of work that put me in proximity to those at the end of life. And that turned out to be a very comfortable place for me, because people who are at the end of life have one foot in another world. I wasn't at the end of life, but I had been walking through life with one foot in another world. So that line of work was perfect for me. But let's go back to 1998. I was a young mother, married with 2 kids. I was busy with a bustling career. I had a couple college degrees under my belt. I was just about to finish my PhD. And my domestic, marital, and maternal life was about to begin to unravel. And I had a sense of that. I could feel this far-off train rumbling in the distance, and I had a real sense of dread in my life at that point. So at one point in the summer of 1998, on a particularly difficult day for me, I had gone to see an artist in Carmel, California, who at that time was very popular. That's probably not the right word. During that time period, for people who were into the spiritual arts and into the angelic frequencies, this artist was becoming quite well known. I went to Carmel to visit him, and in fact here is an image of his artwork right here. So he used to paint beautiful, faceless, kind of abstract angel images. So I went to Carmel because I wanted to purchase one of these images. And while I was visiting with him, he said some pretty profound things to me, this artist whose name was Andy Lakey. And one of the things that he said was, you are supposed to write a book and you are supposed to teach people about the things that you know. And he went on to say that I was going to experience some life changes, and that really I came here to be a writer and a teacher. Now, because I had felt that far off train rumbling in the distance before this, when he said you are going to be facing some life changes, it terrified me, because I could feel that. I knew I was going to be facing some life changes. And my sense was that they were not going to be easy ones. So after I left his gallery, I was walking on the beach with my kids. I was in a meditative state as I walked, and I sent out a plea to the universe. And remember, I was at a point of terror. I really was afraid of what was coming in my life. So this wasn't a regular prayer, it was a plea. And I asked those invisible forces that I didn't really have a name for, but I knew they had always helped me, they had guided me, but I'd never really been able to put my finger on what they were and how it worked. But I was putting a plea out to those forces, and I just asked, please show me that you're there. Show me a sign so that I can keep walking forward into my destiny, whatever that is. If you will let me know that you are there in my life guiding me, I will trust that I can walk through whatever experience comes my way. So I sent this fervent call out into the universe, and within moments, my call was answered. Now, in order for you to really get a feel for how profound the arrival of the Stone Madonna was for me, I will give you just a little bit of backstory. My path as a mother had truly become my spiritual path at that point. And for years, I had been collecting icons of the Divine Mother. So at that time in my life, I literally had dozens of icons of faceless female forms, Madonna and Child, Divine Mother, Divine Feminine, but they all had the same faceless, hooded, abstract type of persona, which is in part what enamored me with Andy Lakey's work, because it looked very much the same way. So that day I sent out my prayer. Right after sending that prayer out, a little stone came tumbling up in the surf, and it landed at my feet. And it was just a little tiny stone, maybe 2 inches high. But when that little stone landed at my feet, it shook my world. And I can tell you honestly, 25 years later, my world is still shaking in a very, very good way. Now, out of all of the many faceless, hooded, abstract female figures that I had collected, there was one in particular that had become a real touch point for me, for my spirituality. And it sat on my meditation altar. It was a little pewter statue that I held all the time. It held my hopes, it held my fears, it held my angst. It held my years of hopes and dreams that I had been holding within me. And this is that little figure. I call her the Pewter Madonna. Now, the Stone Madonna that arrived on the beach is right here. And you can see, even in my hands, it's almost like the universe carved out a twin made of stone to match my little pewter icon that I had been holding for years and years. So the day the Stone Madonna arrived into my life was the day I really got it. I absolutely finally understood that there was an invisible, benevolent force of energy that listened to me, heard every prayer and hope and fear and dream I ever had. And not only did it listen to me, it was able to respond to me. Not respond in some vague, wishy-washy, maybe that was a coincidence, maybe that was just a synchronicity. I learned that day that this intelligence is capable of direct communication. And since that time, in the past 25 years, I have learned a lot more about what creates the proper conditions for that type of direct communication from the invisible, from your higher source, from your angels, from whatever you want to call it. There are conditions that we can create in our lives. There is wisdom that we can funnel down into our being, and there are ways that we can walk through this world that facilitate the types of encounters that I had that day with the Stone Madonna. Course 1 of the Mystics Bootcamp is designed to help you set the foundation for those conditions so that you can welcome that same type of energy into your world. These things don't just happen to me. Miracles, I'm convinced, they are our birthright. But we have to do the work in order to prepare a way, a place, and a voice for those miracles to come through. So if this story about how the Stone Madonna rolled into my world is meaningful to you, and if you feel called towards joining us at the Mystics Bootcamp, the first Mystics Bootcamp toolkit contains all of these items that will help you create an ambiance and an environment of the sacred in your everyday life. Ritual, blessings, prayers, invocations, space clearing, and the ability to create a sacred environment around you is at the very heart of placing your feet on the path of the everyday mystic, which is just what the Mystics Bootcamp is designed to help you do. I know that we can all live in the land of miracles, and the Mystics Bootcamp is a passport to that very place. My extraordinary experiences didn't end with the Stone Madonna. They still filter through my life on a regular basis. I've written 4 award-winning books that all touch on this very concept, and I continue to have extraordinary experiences happen in my life, and I continue to teach others how to create them and set the foundation for the same thing in their life. Something truly magical happens when we realize that there is an invisible, benevolent force all around us that truly listens and responds and wants our good in this world. When we have a direct experience of our own that allows us to see that firsthand, that's what helps us to love more, fear less, and we change the way that we live our lives. These lives that we have, they're not easy. And I don't think there's anything that can protect us from pain and hardship. But when we are able to hone a direct relationship with the universe, whatever that means to you, when you are able to harness and truly recognize a reciprocal relationship between you and the invisible, that's when you're able to love more, fear less, and change how you live your life. I'm Dr. Annette Childs. Thanks for joining me here today, and I hope to see you in the Mystics Bootcamp.